Look at this picture. If you see a duck, you are a left-brained person. If you see a rabbit, you are a right-brained person. If you stuck with this video for this long, this is where you find out that neither of those statements are true. The fact of the matter is, this illustration of this duck/rabbit has nothing to do with whether or not you are left-brained or right-brained. And the reason why is nobody is left-brained or right-brained. It is a myth. It is not true. It does not exist. So a lot of people over many, many years have described themselves as left-brained or right-brained people. Left-brained people tend to be more logical thinkers, more shy, more rigid, etc., 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 etc. Right-brained people are, creative, they're free spirits, they're extroverts, they're good with music or art or whatever. But there's no scientific evidence of brain hemisphere dominance of any kind. But what's more interesting is where this kind of myth came from. Because like every good myth, there's always a kernel of truth. So even though people aren't left or right brain dominant, the left and right side of the brain does do different things. So part of the reason why this myth about left and right brainedness exists today is because of two things: lateralization and localization. Let's start with localization. So in the human brain, there's a lot of different areas. And those areas, those parts of the brain, have specific functions. For example, one little corner of your brain deals with just the creation of language. Talking, writing, doing it coherently, etc. Another part of your brain specifically deals with just understanding language. One part of your brain is specific for things like emotional regulation. One part of your brain is specific for things like sounds. Another part of your brain deals with whatever. But the point is that every part of your brain has a specific job. Now, that takes us into the other half of this, lateralization. Your brain is divided into two halves, left and right. Now, because your brain has specific areas to do specific things, and most brains are all more or less the same, we find the same areas that do the same things usually on the same sides of the brain. For example, the language centers of your brain are usually located on the left hemisphere, and other things are located on the right, but the idea is that those particular skills or functions are tied to certain sides of the brain. And the two halves of your brain have this giant bridge in the middle of tissue called the corpus callosum, which basically allows the two halves to talk to each other. Now, this is where it gets really wild. The two hemispheres can function independently. And the way neuroscientists discovered this was because back in the day, one of the treatments for things like epilepsy or other similar conditions was to sever that bridge between the two halves of your brain. And when they studied the effects of this particular surgery on those patients, yes, they saw an alleviation of the symptoms they were trying to correct, but they also discovered other quirks. If this is something that interests you and you want to know a little bit more about these split-brained patients, go search it out. It's incredible stuff, which, if you want to know more, I guess would be very left-brained of you.